Hey y'all, hey, we are back for another review of Sisters. We're on season 7, episode 13. Insert title here. I forgot to write down the title, so please forgive me. Either way, we're just going to jump right into the review. We're back at the police station, and Gary is forcing tears or pretending he's crying, feigning concern about his missing fiance. Then he goes on to mention, in the presence of the cops and people that are standing there, that according to Penelope's phone records, Andy was the last person that she talked to, and now he's basically trying to point the finger at Andy. And he's also planting a seed that's going to come into fruition at next episode, because he tells Jordan, like, hey, you should be more concerned too. Like, Penelope's your sister, and you should be questioning Andy because she was the last person to talk to her. Red flag for me, number one, is if she's missing, why are you... do you have her phone? You don't have phone records that quickly, so you get kind of giving yourself away right there. But whatever, that's just my inch eye, private eye, uneducated detective skills. That's what I deduced. Either way, what we presume to be a detective walks up. He takes Andy to another room for questioning. And before she could do that, she tells Jordan, like, hey, I'm going to go in there and talk to these people. You go ahead and go home, and I'll brief you on what they're talking about. Because, it's probably a bad idea for you to be here. Emotions are running high. I'll talk to you later. Okay, so he asked her, when was the last time you talked to Penelope? And so now she's looking like, are you detaining me, or are we just talking? Because, she's a lawyer, so she knows, like, hey, I shouldn't be talking to you too deeply, without my counsel present, or whatever the procedures are. And so that's where we're getting to. All right. And then he asked her, like, hey, you don't remember me? Like, you don't remember talking to me before? And she kind of looks at him to try to recall his face. And he turns out he's one of the detectives that was taking evidence out of her house maybe a couple seasons ago at this point, because there was an embezzlement case that Gary was a part of, that she ended up tied up in. Right. And so he confesses that, hey, I'm a special investigator with the FBI. And he believes that we can work together to get what we want. Basically, hey, I'm the FBI, and I can utilize my resources to help you locate Penelope, the lady that you're looking for. And I can utilize your closeness with Gary, or your inside knowledge of who he is as a person, to further build our FBI case to take him down. So the proposition is for her to work with them. She's going to be... witness number one when it comes to his FBI case that's going to be being built around him. And it sounds like an offer, but it sounds more of like you ain't really got no option. But this is what we're dealing with. He wants her to be a witness. Like I said, I already said that. He tells her, and she's like, well, what if I say no? He was like, listen, either you work with us, or you could be tied up. You could be tied up in this case as well, because it's pretty hard to separate yourself from Gary's dealings, because you're deeply rooted. Like, your ties to him are deeply rooted, with, you guys haven't lived together before. He bought you a home before, the car that you're driving, the penthouse that you're living in. All of these are things that has Gary's hands tied up in him, and that may have been by design, knowing who Gary is as a person, but are you going to help us or not? So that is what Andy now has to think about and give them an answer on. All right, so Gary calls Karen to tell her that he plans to only care for his twin and not Aaron's. And then tells her, like, hey, I'm going to set up a trust account for baby girl. He's already presuming it to be a girl. And whatnot. And Karen's like, do what you want to do for your child, but just be reminded that my kids are not going to grow up separately. Like, let's just be adults about this thing. Even though Fatima had just told him in the scene prior, like, listen, don't take this to that lady without talking to Aaron first, because y'all need to talk about co-parenting prior to you taking it to Karen, But of course, Zach, when he gets on his little spiels and things that he's passionate about, logic kind of goes out the window. And so this is where we are. All right. Andy and Fatima, they're talking at the office the next day, and she tells Andy about Karen having 2 baby fathers or whatever for the twins. And of course, she couldn't hold a secret. She don't really have any loyalty or obligation to Karen, so she was going to tell somebody anyway. Either way, she's been up all night studying about the rarity that is the I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce the phenomenon. Google's going to be your best friend on this. I'm just way too country to figure that out. Either way, studying that rare condition and how it happens, and the probability being like 0.25 of a percentage, of that, that happening to somebody. She's just kind of befuddled with how, this came to be. And so Andy tells her about the police report that they wanted to put out for Penelope and running into Gary, and about the FBI agent's proposition to her. And she is under the belief that it's her only opportunity to separate herself from Gary, and to do what needs to be done to kind of get rid of him and get from out under him. And Fatima's like, it sounds nice, but she's not buying the fact that, hey, they're basically, the deal that they're presenting to Andy appears too good to be true. And I can understand that, they're willing to be so helpful, but I wouldn't be willing to think that they wouldn't turn on you because, girl, they're the FBI. And this is what Fatima's telling her. And Andy's like, well, girl, how do you know so much about the FBI and the illa workers and the dealings, and how does that work? And she was like, girl, did you forget my cousin is Madam? And, if you're not privy, Madam is from All the Queen's Men series. She is a mob bostress, female boss, whatever you want to call it, with mild ties, putting hits out on people, owns a male gentleman club. Very good show. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. Either way, that is Fatima's cousin, and she's had more than her fair share of dealings with the FBI. So I'm sure Fatima has some inside knowledge as to how that works. So it would be interesting to see how that's going to work out, or if she is going to be willing to work with them. Now, I would be trying to get, I don't know. Y'all talk about it in the comments. Would y'all be willing to work with the FBI if you know that a lot of your things are tied up with Gary, and it kind of looks like you might be like a little co-conspirator type situation, or at the very least receiving stolen property, receiving stolen monies type situation? Because let's just be clear, a lack of knowledge is not a profession of innocence. I don't know where I heard that. It sounds great. Let's just, pretend I made it up. I didn't. I can't cite the source. Either way, just saying you don't know is not going to prove you innocent. That's just like receiving stolen property, saying, oh, well, I didn't know they stole this flat screen TV. I just bought it off of them. You not knowing the origins of an item or money or thing does not proclaim your innocence, and it's very hard to hold up in court. So it could be hard for her to just say, oh, well, these were gifts and blah, blah, blah. She could be held accountable. So I, myself, would probably be willing to work with the FBI, and just keep my fingers crossed, hoping that they wouldn't double cross me, just doing every single thing they asked me to do, short of being in a room alone with Gary, because we know, women come up missing when they're alone with him. But I don't know. Y'all tell me what y'all think. Either way, Marisa, Karen, Katie, whatever her name is, are at the bank, and she is still not minding her business. They're exchanging insults back and forth. And then Miss Mabel, older black woman, walks up, and Miss Karen, Katie lady, she is like, okay, I can help you, Miss Customer. And she was like, no, Maurice going to help me. And Maurice is like, Miss Mabel, girl, come on here, let me help you. And Miss Mabel comes in, and she tells him, like, listen, I was looking for you for a while, and they were telling me that you were in the pokey, like you were locked up, like what was going on? And, he's really can't pay Miss Mabel too much attention, because he has to correct Miss Karen over here to his left, because she's looking over his shoulder, making sure that he doesn't scam this poor old lady, making sure that he doesn't steal any money, all the microaggressions that come with this subset group of people. All right. And she's continuing to not mind her business, and he's trying his best to not get riled up by her, because he sees that she's trying to provoke him to assault her or to do something extreme, and he knows, like, I'm not about to lose this job that I worked so hard to prove my innocence to get back to. He's like, and she's like, oh, did you touch me or whatever? I'm about to report you. And he was like, don't worry about it. I'm finna go tell her myself before you even get an opportunity. So he goes into Sabrina's office to tell her, hey, let me go ahead and tell her myself, so that Miss Karen Katie lady won't be trying to get the one up on me. And before he can do so, he has to help give herself a needle for, her fertility journey that she's going on. And that's wonderful and everything, but I don't think that you should make it a habit of Maurice being your nurse, pseudo nurse, because because that could kind of convolute things, especially when he's having to give you your needles at the job. Y'all have already been too closely intermingled when it comes to, getting off on those charges and all that good stuff. So maybe not, put that kind of weight on him, because she does say later in the episode that, hey, you might have to help me do that, keep doing that for the time being. And he's kind of looking like, girl, I ain't really signed up for all that. So anyway, he tells Sabrina, like, hey, I need you to talk to Miss Katie, Karen lady, because I don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to not put these paws on her. So you need to talk to her. And so we'll see what happens with that. Aaron, he shows up at the salon, and we somehow found out that Aaron has been an investor for Pam's hair company, Rags to Riches. Whoop-de-doo, I guess she needed some financial investors. Karen didn't have the money at the time, and so she reached out to Aaron. Don't know how that conversation went when he's just like a friend of a friend to you. Not sure how you end up investing, but here we are. Anyway, Karen is mad that neither of them decided to mention it to her, so now she has an attitude yet again. She doesn't like that Aaron is so closely connected to as many people that she is close to in her life. I guess that bugs her. All right, well, then you're all right, whatever. Then she goes on to tell him what Zach said about separating things related to the babies. And he's like, oh, I'm going to have to go talk to him, basically wanting to figure out how they're going to co-parent, or whatever it is that you want to call him. And so, of course, he's going to run into Zach sometime before the end of the episode. All right, so Jordan was supposed to go home, and he did not. He decided to follow Gary and his assistant, Mr. Hudson, and he sees them. He followed them or whatever, and I'm assuming Hudson dropped Gary off and proceeded to do what he wanted to do. And it seems that he pulled up outside of Gary's office, and it looks like, I don't know who the lady is. Maybe she used to work there, or she currently works there. I missed that part. Either way, Jordan sees Hudson threatening the lady, telling her, like, listen, you better be quiet. You better keep your mouth shut if you know what's good for you, type warning. And Jordan was, visually impaired or couldn't really make out who the person is. And he thought the lady was Penelope. So he runs up on the lady like, hey, Penelope, whatever. I don't know how, because nothing about that lady gave Penelope. Curly hair, not pregnant. Your emotions. You're very cloudy about your emotions right now. Either way, he thought the lady was Penelope. It turns out she wasn't. She recognizes him from the TV because he is campaigning for senator, one of them corrupt offices. Don't remember. Either way, she's like, are you Jordan? I think I remember you from, from the campaign, from TV or whatever, whatnot. And he lies about who he really is. And he's like, girl, that's not me. I get that all the time. My name is, I don't know, John. I don't remember what that alias was. Either way, he's like, listen, he lies to her about having an interview with Hudson, and he wants to know, like, her insight on who these people are that he's going to be potentially working with, quote unquote. And she warns him that Hudson is a jerk. So, good luck working with him, or good luck on your interview or whatever. And then he goes on to ask her, he starts to kind of pry a little bit about information about Gary. And she's like, okay, come with me. I'll tell you what you need to know. But we don't get into what that information is in this episode. Hopefully we'll get into that in episode 14. So it seems like it's going to get a little bit of insight on Gary and his dealings or whatnot. But he's also going to be a little bit confused. He's going to have some, issues later on as well. But we'll talk about that at the end of the episode. Either way, Aaron finds Zach at the basketball court because he just took a great guess at where he would be at that time of night, and he guessed correctly. And of course, Zach meets him with venom and just angst and, why are you always following me? You always want to be everywhere I am, even in the dang womb of Karen. Why can't I say that word? Womb of Karen. And just giving him, real stank like he's been doing all along. And Aaron tells him, like, listen, I'm just here to make sure, we know that I'm willing to take care of both of those babies. Like, it's no smoke between us. But then he goes on to kind of shade Zach a little bit. He was like, listen, even if you ain't ready to take care of both, I'm here to take care of both of them babies. Like, it's no sweat on my back. And Aaron, listen, Alexa, I don't appreciate that you already thinking about mistreating my kid early on. Like, the kid ain't even here, and you already talking about separating stuff and dividing things down the middle, and I don't really like it. Now, I'm gonna jump in right here and say I don't know who to side with. Let's talk about it in the comments if you made it this far. I feel like both of them have valid points. I feel like Zach is just clinging on to, you know, what is his at this point, and Aaron is just willing to save the world. And by the end of the scene, we'll see kind of where Zach gets into his knight in shining armor kind of trope that he falls into, which I agree with you, Zach. Either way, I see where Aaron is coming from as well, as far as like, hey, they're twins, they're siblings. Like, we're going to be tied to these kids forever. Let's just make this easy. Let's co-parent these kids as paying free as possible. Like, you know, it's going to be weird for you to just come by the house and just pick up your twin. Like, twins have a connection that is very special, telepathic. Like, twins have a connection that no other set of people have in some instances. Even though they're going to be fraternal, there's a connection there that, you know, you don't want to get in the midst of. But Aaron is just telling him, like, you know, I'm willing to do it. I'm willing to co-parent. It's not a big deal. And then he goes on, and Zach is like, well, don't you got 2 other kids? Like, why you want to do all this for this kid? And he tells him, like, listen, I do have 2 other kids, but the grandmother has custody of them, and she won't let me talk to him. And, you know, that's from the wife that unalived herself in Karen's shop a couple seasons ago. That woman was of Caucasian descent, so we could presume that the grandmother is also of Caucasian descent. And there's going to be a racial dynamic there, I'm sure, as well as a blame that is going to be on Aaron because she did unalive herself while he was in the pursuit of Karen, even though she probably has some mental health instabilities that she did not work on, that she did not overcome. Either way, this is what he's dealing with. So this kind of lends itself, give us some insight as to why he's so gung-ho about like being there for Karen and trying to save Karen and helping. And, you know, even though Karen kind of walks all over him and takes advantage of him in some instances. And so he sees the twins as his second chance to get it right. While I understand what you're saying, don't like the statement because that slights your first set of kids as if you failed in that aspect and you're going to just take them not talking to you, laying down, and you're just going to rebuild everything over here with the twins. Don't like it, don't really appreciate it, but I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. Either way, Zach is a little bit apologetic after that, you know, with him saying that or whatever. He's like, you know, okay, I'm willing to you know, be a little bit more softer in my approach. But then he tells him, like, listen, you have to calm down. Like, you don't have to be Karen's knight in shining armor. That's not what she wants you to be. It ain't working out for you anyway, because, you know, this is what you're trying to be to her. She don't want nothing to do with you, like, not in that aspect. And you are still trying to be the savior, and she doesn't need your God complex. And that's a very interesting statement, considering he is a preacher, pastor, whatever he is. And, child, you know how they be. I'm going to leave that alone. Either way, he reminds me, like, yeah, that's one of the major reasons why Karen walks all over you. Like, if you want to be here for these kids and you want to, you know, have this S on your chest, like, just, you know, grab your nuts a little bit. Like, put your foot down a little bit. Like, don't get walked all over all the time. And, okay, great message. The messenger, you know, not so much. The delivery, also not so much, but whatever. All right, Trey comes by in his baby shower, finest child. It was, if he had on a Burberry button up, he would have been on his way to the baby shower, right? Either way, he came there to impress Karen, I guess to show him that he could clean up nice outside of his work uniform. Don't know. Either way, he comes there to try to impress Karen and claims he wanted to check on the cameras to make sure they're working, and also wants to invite her on a date, whether today, 6 months from now, eventually a date. Sure. She reminds him, like, listen, I'm knocked up. That's the first thing from my mind. And that doesn't really deter, you know, his thoughts about her or whatever, any potentialities that they may run into, whatever, whatnot. And I don't have the energy for this particular storyline because you got enough on your plate, Karen. Dating should be number 3,472 on your list of things to do, but that's not how Mr. Perry is going to write that, I'm sure. All right. Danny calls Sabrina over to her apartment, and she is bursting at the seams to spill these beans about Karen, and she can't just come right out and say it because she's trying to preserve their relationship, quote unquote, right? I don't know that there's much of anything to preserve at this particular juncture, but we're gonna pretend that there's just a mustard seed chance of, this thing being saved. And so she makes Sabrina play charades for the answer to what she wants to tell her. Even, girl, you still dry snitching. Like, just go ahead and tell her and save y'all some time. Either way, Sabrina's a little ditzy. And so it takes her a little minute, but she eventually gets to it. And now Fatima has spilled the beans to Andy. Danny has spilled the beans to Sabrina, and everybody is now in the know. Congratulations. Mr. Tony. Tony bursts into Sabrina's apartment, pissed at the fact that his daughter stole, let's call it what it is, stole Danny's furry handcuffs that she found in her apartment while being babysat. And now he is disappointed because she's the adult in the situation, and how could she be so irresponsible? And she reminds him, like, hey, not too much of me, because I did you a favor, a last minute favor, babysat them kids. They don't even like me. They were touching my things before I could even get home to babysit said kids. You and the kids had used your key to come into my room and make yourselves at home, right? And in the meantime, that is when she found my furry handcuffs. And yes, I gave her the best explanation I could as to what they were for. I told her they were for a game. Did not express whether it was an adult. Just told her, hey, ask your daddy what the game is, because I can't be responsible for giving you the information. And of course, he's still pissed, and he really mad about the situation. And she proceeds to not even deal with it and tell him, you know what, you can go ahead and head out. I've explained my stance. You don't respect my stance and accept my efforts. So you go ahead and enjoy the rest of your evening. And so I'm sure they'll fix that, but within next episode. But I'm not sure where his anger is coming from. Again, your child went through my things and found my personal items, of which I still dialed down the explanation of what said item was for the sake of being a responsible adult, right? And then, oh, that's aptly titled. My shirt says occasional adult. Because I am, I'm childish. Well, you guys probably don't know, but either way. Girl, you rambling. Finish the review. Okay. And so now you still, want a reason to be pissed. And so while you want to be pissed, sit in your pisstivity outside in the hallway. All right. Zach gets home and tells Fatima about the conversation with Aaron. And she's like, whatever. Okay, I told you so. Congratulations. Then she goes on to tell him, like, listen, I talked to somebody about your money situation with Zach. Let's keep in mind that Gary got some money from Zach to invest in, because he's an investor. And he didn't invest the money. He kept it. And Zach went back to get his money. And Gary's like, what money, fool? Like, real Debo style. And Fatima had somebody look into the situation, and we learned that the language within the investment agreement makes it perfectly legal for Gary to keep that money. And so, there's going to be a lesson in reading and getting legal counsel and, having a little bit of working knowledge about everything that, that's going on around you, so that you don't get got. But I won't get too far on that soapbox, because I can go on and on and on about the contracts. I do contracts for a living. So, getting to contracts and reading the fine print and all that good stuff. But there's the lesson. Just read over your stuff. If you don't understand that jargon, that lingo, get somebody else to do it that you trust and that you have to pay for. Just to avoid stuff like this. Either way. And so he's like, okay. Like, he gonna get what's coming to him, and he's trying to tell Fatima, like, hey, contact madam, contact your cousin, and go ahead and plant that seed for somebody to touch him. Do what needs to be done outside of the legal ramifications, because I'm pretty much sick and tired of being sick and tired. And Fatima's like, we'll say less. So we just can presume that she's gonna call in a favor. Now we just got to play the waiting game to see what's going to catch up to Gary first, whether it's going to be Madam and her people or the FBI. I'm willing to put my money on Madam, so that he's not a problem for anyone ever again on the planet Earth, but we'll see how it goes. Andy is talking to Jordan, trying to figure out where he is. She's on the car phone or whatever, and Gary jumps into the back seat, talking trash, like, oh, is this my ex-B word? Whatever. And it takes Jordan off guard, because it turns out Jordan was tracking him or whatever, and Gary was able to get the slip on him and double back and get into his back seat and be like, hey, don't be following me no more. Woo, 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 woo. Okay, and that is how the episode ends. We see in the projections for next week's episode, we see, well, this week because it's Monday. Sorry, I'm late. That Gary threatens Jordan, telling him, like, if you don't chill, you could be the next one that comes up missing. You should be recording him. And then we also see a scene where Jordan is kind of aggressive with Andy, asking her, like, does she know anything more about Penelope's disappearance? And I don't think I'm mad right now because you don't really know who to trust. I don't know how long he's known Andy and Gary and all these people. He's known Gary for longer than he's known Andy, from what I understand, about at the cookout and all that stuff that happened. You got to go back to last season for that. Either way, but he's now that seed that Gary planted earlier on is going to probably come into play because he really doesn't know what to think or who to believe at this point, I'm sure. And then that co-worker lady that told him information about Hudson, we don't know what he told Jordan about Gary. So all of that'll come in next week. You know, things are spicing up, things are picking up, and I'm looking forward to Gary not being in next season and all that good stuff. Either way, that has been episode 13. Let me know what you think about the episode. We'll talk about it in the comments. Like, comment, share, subscribe, or whatever it is you feel like doing, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.